Hi, I'm Mary Lacoursiere from the Nantucket Historical Association, bringing you tips and tricks from the 1800 house. Today we have another special guest. They're a returning guest. This is Mr. Rogers and Nantucket Millie, neighbors in Nantucket, which is on Nantucket, and they're back for an encore. They liked our class so much last time that they came back, so thank you for coming. Today I'm going to show you how to make some really simple books. Books are the kind of thing that you should always have something in your pocket or in your bag, take notes, do some sketches, and they're great to have handy. I found that some of the books that I've made, they're very simple, but people tend to not put anything in them because they're a little bit precious. So let's take the preciousness out of this, because once you know how to make them, you can make them and fill them up and then make another one. So here are some simple books. These are single signature books, which means there's just a couple pages folded, and I've used all various things for covers. So here's a card that I used for one. This was a piece of painted canvas that I used for another, so it's nice and sturdy. And then they're all stitched together on the inside. Here's a really nice small little book that it's just fun to have, just kind of, it's a really great thing to give to somebody. And here's another one that's made out of some ship log paper that I had. Each of these have different kinds of paper on the inside. So think about what you want to use your book for, or don't think about it at all. Just make it, but if you want to sketch, if you want to write, will sort of help determine what kind of paper you're going to put inside. I want to show you some of the tools to use. Bookbinding tools are pretty cool. There's all kinds of neat things that they have for stitching and putting things together, but I'm going to also show you what you actually have in your kitchen. So the first thing that everybody has is they have a self-healing mat, and that's to cut things against. If you're going to, pierce anything, you always want some kind of surface that you're not going to hurt, a table or things like that. A plastic cutting board works just fine. So you can use that. The infamous awl, this is pretty cool. It's basically a pointy. It's a tool that you can pierce, and you want to use this to make your holes in your book for your stitching. I have a variety of pointy things. I don't know what this was for. It could have been a dental tool, but what works really great is a small nail. So I tend to keep all my pointy things in something, a cork, piece of styrofoam, cardboard, so that when I reach into my toolbox, I don't jab myself. So that's the famous awl that you can use something else. And then there's the bone folder. The bone folder is really great because you want a nice, you can use your finger to get a really good finger press. You want to crease your paper. But if you're using a thicker paper, sometimes you want something with a little more oomph. So a bone folder is great to use, and you just use it to crease your paper. But if you don't have a bone folder, this will actually work just as well. This is a plastic knife. You don't want to use the sharp edge because you don't want to cut your paper, but you want to use something that's a little bit on the rounded side. The bone folder has sort of a soft rounded edge, so it's not going to cut your paper, but it's going to crease it really nicely. Okay, so it's demystified. Here's your stuff, and the thread. The thread is cool. So this is actually a linen thread, and a lot of times when you're stitching books, you want to use a wax thread. And the reason you want to use a wax thread is because it will, when you go to tie your knot, when you're finished, it kind of sticks to itself. I don't have any wax thread. This is a beautiful linen thread. It's nice and thick, but I do have a candle. So if I'm going to make this thread now a wax thread, I'm just going to take my candle, and you can see I've used it quite a bit, and I'm just going to rub it through, and I'm just going to pull it. And what it's going to do, it's going to coat the surface of this with a little bit of wax so that when I go to tie a knot, it holds. Okay, you don't have this, you might have this, but you better have this. This is dental floss. This is actually one of the best things to use. My husband's a big hiker, and he's out on the trail, and things break, and he sews things back together with this all the time. So I can guarantee it's great. So today we're going to sew our book with dental floss, which has already got a little bit of wax to it. It's very strong, and it will work just great for sewing your book. All right. So here we're going to make I can't even say it. It's a single signature. All right, a single signature is basically a group of folded papers. And if you take a look at any book that you have, it's comprised of many signatures sewn together. So this is a single signature, and it's each page is called a folio, and I folded them and I put them together, and I would sew these together. A good size for a handmade book is usually 4 to 6 pages, which will give you 8 pages or 12 pages. But just keep in mind, if this is a little bit thick, so see how that's going to sit up. So I might want to make that a little bit thinner. Here is a book that I have stitched together. Okay, it's full of, I think there's 7 signatures in here. It's waiting for a nice cover. I can't decide what to use, but I will. But it's made out of this old, it's like office paper. I'm not even sure what it is. I think it was from my grandfather's office, and it was obviously in some kind of notebook, but it's pretty cool. And I sewed these together, and then pretty soon I'll put a cover on it and make a nice book out of that, and it will be pretty interesting to write some notes on in that. So that's what we're going to do. So today, the first thing you're going to do is decide on what paper you want to use. I've chosen this paper because I had it. A lot of these books are made out of scrap paper. If I'm going to make an art book for my sketchbooks, I will take a nice pad of drawing paper and deconstruct that and make that into a book. But a lot of times I will just use like a nice paper that I like the feel of. So the first thing you want to do is you're just going to fold it, and you're going to use your bone folder or your other knife here. And I'm just going to give it a good crease, okay? Back and forth. And that way I've got, it's like a knife edge. It's really sharp, and it's going to sit together well in my other pieces. And for this particular book, I'm going to use 4 pieces of paper, because that's going to give me 8. It's going to give me 8 sheets, and I like that. So I've already folded these, and they're nice. And I'm probably just going to, now that I have them together, give them another really good crease. Okay? So there we have it. So now I want to measure. So I want to measure the center. So you can do 3 holes. So you have a center and 2 side holes. So you want to do the center and then just evenly spaced, or you can do 5. And if I'm going to do 5, I'm going to do 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3, 1 in the middle. So what I'm going to do first, if you look at this book, you can't see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see it here. This is a 5-hole book. I'm going to take my pencil, and I'm going to take a ruler. I'm going to find the center. And I'm really going to kind of eyeball this, but I am going to find the center. So I'm going to find, basically what I'm going to do on this particular book is I'm going to come in 1 inch on each side. So I want to come in equal distance so that when I'm sewing, it has a nice even look. And then I'm going to come in another, I think 3/8 of an inch, but you guys don't have to do anything specific. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to find the middle. This is 5.5, so that's 2 3/4. So there's my center. So those are my holes. You can make them wider. You can change this up any way you want. But whatever you decide to do, just evenly space them so you've got a pleasing stitch. Then I'm going to make sure that my paper is really nice and tight. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to actually use my awl or my nail, and I'm going to pierce these holes. But before you do that, you need a cover. So I decided I was going to use this beautiful piece of marbleized paper, and it wasn't really thick enough, so I actually glued the same kind of paper to the inside with just a glue stick. Okay, so I'm going to sandwich this entire business together. So I've got a nice book here. I've got my marks on the inside, and I'm going to use my awl. You can use a nail, and I'm going to pierce through all of it. And this is where you want to do this on a surface so that you don't, puncture or you hurt whatever surface you're working on, okay? So I'm going to come from the inside out. And there I can see my little hole. So I might want to just come from the outside in, just to put that in there as well. And I'm going to repeat that with all 5 holes. Just give it a really good push. If you think you can't do it with a nail, watch me do it with a nail. A needle works just as well. And you may, because this doesn't have anything to push it against, you might need to do it a couple times. All right. And you can't see this, but I do have a hole that goes through my spine of my cover. So I'm just going to push my, my tool through the back as well. So when I go to sew, it's not too hard. All right. There we have it. So now I'm going to take my dental floss, which I've threaded up, and I'm going to come from the inside to the outside. There's a lot of ways to stitch. A lot of people have different ways to do this, but this is the way that I do it. So I'm going to push my needle down, and it's hard to see because I'm using dental floss because you can't see it. So maybe I will use, well, I'm going to keep going. But I'm going to leave a nice long tail, okay? And then I'm going to come from the back side, and I'm going to push from the cover to the inside, like so. Then I'm going to go to my center hole, and again, back to front. Go to my 4th hole, going to the back, and then going to the front. Sometimes this is a little tricky. Just hold it together with your fingers while you do this so that everything stays lined up. See, I have my thread here. I've got a nice size tail. And then I'm going to go to my last hole. And then I'm going to stitch all the way back through again. So there I've stitched, but then I'm going to come back around, and I'm going to come back through this hole again. So I'm basically stitching one direction, stitching back the other. So I go all the way down. I'm going to put some instructions on the website so you guys can see this. It's very simple, and I'm going to repeat. I'm just going to go back the way I came so that I'm basically reinforcing everything. And again, so you can see you'll have a solid stitch on your spine on the outside. And now I've got a tail here and a tail here. And this is where the wax thread is really important, is I'm going to do a double knot. Okay, so I'm going to go right over left, left over right. But what it will do is when you tie your knot, don't try to pull it so that it's sort of near the hole, so you can kind of push it down and disguise it. So I've got it there, I've pulled it nice and tight, and now I'm going to do another knot. And here we go, like so. And my knot is close to my hole, so it's not sort of in the middle of my book. Then I'm going to snip these off. 1, 2. I'm going to take my little bone folder, and I'm going to just sort of, which is my bone folder here, and take my tip, and I'm going to just sort of press that raw edge of the floss or the thread down kind of into the hole, so it sort of tucks away in there. And it's hard to see because of the light, but here you go. So here's a beautiful little book that's ready for my day's observances, my stories, my drawings, anything I want. And it's going to be filled with something really great. I can stick it in my pocket and take it anywhere with me. It's also a great gift. So you guys, I hope you enjoy this project. Make books, write down your thoughts and your observances. Remember, on our website right now is a whole project of writing down your COVID experience. So here's a good place to start. Again, we'd like to thank our special guests for joining us today, and we'd love to see what you make. So please post anything at ACT History on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.